So before we get into what we're going to talk about today, I need to kind of confess something to you. And you can just kind of add this to your, things I'm disappointed in my pastor about in my life. And there's probably a long list for some of you. But here's what I mean by that. And some of you are going to sit here and you're going to hear what I'm going to say. And you're going to go, well, that's a little cocky. That's a little arrogant. It's not. And some of you are going to sit here and go, well, I think he's wrong. And I'm not wrong. You are. I prayed through this, all right? And here's what I mean by that is I really do believe. I believe with all my heart. Again, I prayed through this, so it has to be right. So I believe that I think I'm one of the best drivers ever. All right, I do. I think I'm better than most of the drivers out there in the world today. And I think I'm not alone in that. I think a lot of you feel the same way. By show of hands, if you think that you're a better driver than most of the crazies on the road, raise your hand. See, that's us, all right? And some of you, again, you're sitting here going, I think I'm probably a better driver than Jim. And again, you're wrong. You're not. I'm better than you. And here's the thing is that, and I'm kidding when I say I'm a better driver than most people. I'm not. I believe that. I do. The truth is, though, whether it's true or not, in my mind, and it's scary in here, but in my mind, sometimes I really believe it, and then I act like I am. Or I behave based on what I think is true in my own mind. I believe it so much to the point that, I think that most of the traffic laws out there, all right, especially those speed limit laws, I think those are great ideas for you, all right? Right? For other people. But again, in my mind, I think I ought to get a pass. I do. I think that I have reasons. I think I should be the exception. And that, I don't know how it would work, but I just think people should know that when I pull up behind them, it's Pastor Jim. I need to get out of his way because he's important. And he has important things to go and important places to go. And they're probably more important than my things, especially if you're in the left-hand lane driving too slow. They should take your license away. But that's just me, all right? But here's the other part of this, all right? Just get this off my chest, all right? Is that I don't have a middle ground when I'm driving. Scott pointed this out to me on the way to lunch the other day. He says, man, dude, you go from like 0 to 100, whatever. And here's what he means by that. If I'm driving around Denver, I'm either, it's a beautiful day, or I want you to die. I don't have a middle ground. Anybody else? It's like there's just something happens in my head. And again, if a person doesn't know how I feel about them in front of me, then they should just look in their rearview mirror because they can look behind and I'm going, but I'm letting them know that they shouldn't be on the road. Like the other day, okay, so this is a true story. I really am not making this up. I'm driving down a 2-lane highway here in the Denver area, right? And it's just 2 lane, and I'm doing everything I'm supposed to do, and I pull up behind this little Subaru, all right? Who's going like 6 miles an hour under the speed limit. Okay, why? I don't know, all right. So anyway, that just makes me angry. So I roll my eyes, and I do what everybody does. I start yelling through the windshield like she can hear me, like, come on. Anybody else yell come on a lot in your car? Because I don't know. It's like, come on, all right? So here's the thing is I waited for a legal section of the road, because there's a cop sitting right down here, all right? So I looked at a legal section of the road to pass, and then when it was all clear, I downshifted my Jeep, I hit the gas, and I zipped around her. Well, this did not go well with little Miss Subaru, all right? So she laid on her horn. But Subaru. All right, so, right? If you drive a Subaru, just pray through that. You'll get over it, right? But anyway, now here again, I'm just getting this off my chest. When you honk at me, 2 things happen, okay? The first thing is I check to make sure you don't have a Flatiron sticker on your car. Right, you feel me there? All right? Because the last thing I want is bunch of little kids going, look, it's Pastor Jim. He just flipped us off. Pastor Jim made me cry. I was like, then I'll get, so I check, make sure you don't have a sticker on your car, but that is going on the disappointment list. All right? But if you're driving a Subaru around Denver, you don't have a Flatiron sticker. If you honk at me, in my brain, I'm not saying it's right, but in my brain, I interpreted that to mean you want me to pull over in front of you and hit the brakes, because that's what I did, all right? So again, this didn't go well with Miss Subaru. So I look at my rearview mirror, and I see the most sourpuss face, wet, curly, perm, bad, whatever, all right? Like glaring at me. And then I watch her. She gets her iPhone out. She starts taking pictures of my license plate, all right? I'm like, she wants to party. That's all right? That's good, all right? And I'm just getting fired up. And then she's on the phone going, and I know she's called 911, and she reported me for road rage. I didn't have road rage. I had road smart, Alec. Wow. All right, so, which is very different than road rage, all right? So now here's why I tell you that story. First of all, you need to pray for me, all right? And the other thing is it explains why I don't have a fish or a Flatiron sticker on my Jeep. I don't. I just can't take the pressure. All right, it's a lot of accountability. But more importantly, the truth is, and I'll turn this towards Jesus, I promise. All right, so the truth is that we all have areas of our life where we're driving crazy. Right? I'm not talking about cars anymore. We're driving way too fast, pedal to the metal. People are passing us, or we're passing people that are in our way or can't keep up with us. And if we were to ever look in the rearview mirror of our life, we'd see carnage. that we caused. We'd see car wrecks, and we'd see bodies laying in the road in the wake of our, I got to get there fast, choices and directions. And here's the thing is that we've convinced ourselves that while the rules and of life should apply to everybody else and you ought to follow them, somehow in our mind, we've reasoned they shouldn't or they don't have to apply to our lives and what we're choosing to do and how we're trying to live our lives and the speed that we're living them at. And that's what I want to talk about today. Or more importantly, that's what we're going to see Jesus talk about today. And he's not going to talk about you're driving your car too fast. That's my comparison. Or the word we looked at last week was that's my parable. The parable that Jesus is going to use to teach that same truth is this. A farmer went out to plant some seeds in his field, but it's the same truth. So let me give you a quick review if you weren't here last week and kind of catch you up. So whenever Jesus taught a crowd of people, stood up in front of people like this, or today we're looking at him, he's sitting in a boat a few feet off of the shore and everybody's lined up on the shore and he's teaching them about farming. But when Jesus taught, he used this thing called parables or comparisons or metaphors, and he would take unfamiliar things like God's stuff and God says this is a better way to live your life, and he would take that and he would compare it to things that were already going in your life that you were familiar with and go, it's kind of like that. So maybe if Jesus were walking around Colorado in 2013, maybe he would talk about, your life is kind of like you're driving your car too fast. But 2,000 years ago, he compared life to a farmer went out to his field to plant some seeds. But either comparison leads to the same place. The same truth we're going to unpack today and the same application when we walk out of here. And when Jesus was asked, now why are you talking about farming and why are you talking about sheep and all that kind of stuff? His simple answer was this, so that people can finally understand, so they can see what's going on in their life and honestly look at it and realize that something needs to change in their life if their life is ever going to produce better results than the past, or in farming terms, a better harvest. The second reason that Jesus is so desperate for us to understand what's really going on in our lives so we can turn and have our lives change is you can almost sense this urgency to his message. Because this is what we looked at last week. Jesus says very, very plainly, there's a day coming in every person's life on the planet, whether you believe in God or not, this is just true, where they will be held accountable for what they did and didn't do with their lives. Kind of like a farmer knows that, in September, October, when I go out to harvest, we're going to find out what kind of farmer I was. A day's coming when everything's going to kind of be revealed about how you lived your life. And we've all heard the saying, whether this is our first time in church or not, but we know it's true. It goes like this. A day is coming when you will reap what you sow, right? And for some of us, we've already been there. We've already had that day. For some of us, it was a really good day. My life's really good. But for a lot of us, that was a really, really, really hard day when we looked at our life and went, this isn't the way I thought my life would go. This isn't the marriage I thought I would end up with, the family situation that I would find myself in. Fill in the blank. This isn't the most important part of my life. I didn't think it would turn out this way, but it did. And some of us were sitting here going, that had happened to me. Okay, but it will. It will, I promise. It will. Jesus makes it clear. He promised the results, the fallout, the rewards, the good things, the consequences, the harvest of the way you live your life will become obvious for better or worse. And I'm not talking about heaven and hell. I'm talking about in this life. A day is coming when your life will be out there. So Jesus makes it very, very clear. Here's why I left heaven. I came to earth. I'm sitting in a boat on a lake to talk to people about life's kind of like farming. And Jesus' goal, all right, is that broken, dry, wilted people, not plants, not roses like we talked about last week, not corn. He's talking about people. People will turn from the ways that they've been living that are producing such horrible, poor results and outcomes, open their eyes and look and admit, this is what's really going on. And I understand, and I'm going to turn towards Jesus, take hold of his truth so anytime Jesus opens his mouth, here's what he's going for, so that he can heal up the broken part of your life. Anytime Jesus says, here's what I want you to do, the end goal is, because I want that part of your life to come back to life. I want it to be healed. So here's the message from last week. Why is Jesus sitting in a boat talking to these people? So that maybe some of them, and 2,000 years later, some of us in this room today will listen and put into practice what he is saying and have the most important, I can't let this fail, parts of my life, have those healed back up. That's why Jesus opened his mouth. So let's look back at this story. We're in Matthew. So a guy named Matthew writes one of the biographies of Jesus. Matthew chapter 13, verse 1, right where we left off last week. Here we go. It says this, that same day, Jesus went out of the house, so he doesn't teach in churches, so he just go in somebody's house and they pack out the house with people and they teach them about God. So that same day, Jesus went out of the house and sat beside the sea. So right down that street from this house was the Sea of Galilee. It's this big lake in the middle of Israel, right? Verse 2. And great crowds gathered around about him so that he got into a boat and sat down, and the whole crowd stood on the beach. And he told them many things in parables, saying, a sower or a farmer went out to sow. We said this last week is that Jesus would teach, but Scott and I, what we do is we teach in a series. We'll take this one thing that Jesus taught and we'll break it into 5 or 6 sections, all right? Kind of like a book. So if last week was like the introduction, today is going to be chapter 1, and then I'm going to stop, and then we'll pick up chapter 2 next week. But right now in this next verse, Jesus is going to present case number or comparison number or life example number 1, right? So a farmer went out to sow. This is a metaphor. Verse 4. And as the farmer sowed, some seeds fell along the path, and the birds came and devoured them. So again, quick 2,000-year-old farming lesson, because that's why you got out of bed, right? I hope he teaches about farming. All right, praise the Lord. Here it is. All right, so it goes like back in Jesus' day, when a farmer went out to plant a garden or plant a field of grain, he didn't go down to the barn, fire up the John Deere tractor, put a planter on the back of it, and have this automated thing put a seed every 6 inches in straight rows for thousands of acres. That's not how it worked, all right? Back in Jesus' day, the farmer went out, because it's desert most of the time there, if you've ever been there. He took a hoe or a pick or something like that, and he broke up the really, really hard ground. Then he'd put a bag of seeds around his neck. He'd reach in there, and he'd kind of broadcast them out. He'd throw them out and scatter them and hope that some of those seeds would fall or land in some soil where it could take root and grow and produce a crop. And in a field like this in Israel, there are all kinds of textures, all kinds of rocks, things hidden under the surface that will play a huge role in whether or not that seed makes it or not, whether it survives or not. And again, this is a metaphor, so we're really not talking about farming, right? So the comparison for us would be this. Right now, I'm standing up here, right? And I'm pointing towards Jesus, okay? Here's what Jesus says is a better way. Here's what Jesus says is a better way to live your life. So let's let that be the seeds, all right? Not my words, but what Jesus be the seeds. So these words are the seeds. And let's let you be the soil. And not just you, but what's going on in your life. So here's what Jesus says is true, and it's landing on you, okay? So you're going to be the soil that these seeds want to grow in, all right? Now let's look back at that comparison again. And as he sowed, some seeds fell along the path, that kind of dirt, and the birds came and devoured them. So the farmer throws out the seeds, some of it falls on the path, birds come and eat it, and it never gets a chance to grow. Now remember, in the middle of the story, all right, Jesus is talking about farming, and one of his buddies comes up and taps him on the shoulder and goes, "Come here, why are you talking about farming? Talk about God or something important. Why are you talking about farming?" And Jesus says, "Because I want people to understand so they can make some changes in their life." And then right after that part, he explains in the second part of his talk what all the first part of the talk was about. So skip down to verse 19. And in verse 19, we're going to find out what he was really talking about in verse 4. So look down here at verse 19, all right? He says this, when anyone, and now he's talking about us, people listening, okay? When anyone hears the word of the kingdom, and I'll explain that, and does not understand it, the evil one comes and snatches away what's been sown in his heart. This is what I was talking about in verse 4. This is what was sown along the path. So this is what I was saying earlier. When a person, and again, it's like just like one of us, all right, here's Jesus called the word of the kingdom. What's that mean? Anytime Jesus says, this is better, this is a better way to live your life. This is a better way to do marriage, sexual intimacy. This is a better way to do parenting. This is a better way to do friendship, whatever that is. Those are the words of the kingdom. This is what it looks like. And again, you can plug in any of the most important parts of your life. And Jesus says, hey, here's how I want you to live that part of your life. That's the words of the kingdom. So anytime you hear the words of the kingdom, but even though you heard what Jesus said, I hear the words, all right? The person doesn't understand it. And here the word understand literally means puts it together. So you said it, I'm not putting it together, as in connect the dots. Yeah, here's what Jesus says is a true, better way to live my life, and here's my real life, all right? And I need to put those together. So to not understand would be the opposite. I can't put it together. I can't or I won't take what Jesus says is a better way to live my life, and I'm not going to let it fit into the soil of my life. No, it can't come in. No, I don't want to let it grow in my life. And Jesus says, okay, all right, you can do whatever you want. You're free to do whatever you want. But just be careful, because it'll only lay there so long. And then Jesus says the evil one, and he's talking about Satan, will come along and just take it away. It's like it wasn't even there. It's like Jesus hadn't even opened his mouth in your life. And Jesus says, that's what I was talking about. That's what it was sown along the path. So let's look at this thing called the path, all right? Well, what's going on in a person's life that Jesus would use the comparison? I told you the truth, but my words were kind of like landing on a path. Well, the word path in the original language there can be translated several different ways. And whenever Jesus did a metaphor or a story or something like that, he picked and chose his words very, 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 very carefully. So again, let's look at this word path, because there's a couple ways you could translate it. One way would be this, along the way, along the way. So in Jesus' day, well, I'll just go this, all right? It's still like this in Middle Eastern countries. If you were to go with me on one of our like 5 or 6 trips, we go to Afghanistan or we go to South Sudan or we go to Uganda. Uganda has there's this farm area, all right? So if you were to go with me, all right, it's not like here. Even today, it's not like here. It's not like Eastern Colorado where you have 10,000 acres of one thing, you know, and all these big combines out there. It's not like that. No, if you go back there, in most of the world today, you have much smaller patches. Maybe an acre, a big one would be an acre, maybe a half an acre, something like that. And usually the farmer has surrounded that by kind of a berm of dirt all the way, like a ledge or a raised hill all the way around it. And on this raised border, one of the reasons is because Israel's a desert. And so there's a well over the town, all right? So you go to the town, get a bucket, and then you walk all the way out to your food plot, and then you dump the water, and that berm kept the water from all running down the hill. Does that make sense? The other thing is that on this raised berm, there might be another patch, another farmer's patch, and then another farmer's patch. And for him to get to the village, to his own patch, you didn't want him walking through your corn, all right? So he would walk on top of that berm. And after years and years and years of walking on top of these berms and carrying buckets of water and stuff like that, season after decade, the top of these things turned into concrete. Got packed down and baked in the sun. So what Jesus might be saying is this, you know, some of the seeds fell on the hard sidewalk. That would be a literal translation. That's how Luke, one of Jesus' friends, that's how he tells the story. He says, a sower went out to sow his seed, and as he sowed, some fell along the path and was trampled underfoot, and birds came and devoured it. So people stepped on it. But either way, the result's the same. The seed landed on something that was so hard it couldn't get in, and before it was even given a chance to grow, it was gone. It was just taken away. Again, this is a metaphor. So what is well, it's kind of like that Jesus is talking about with God and us in our lives. Well, earlier in the story we looked at last week, the reason that some people, we hear what Jesus says, but it never gets inside, and the reason that we see what needs to change in our life, but that never really becomes a reality in my life, Jesus said it really, really comes down to this. Look at verse 15 here. He says, for this people's heart has grown what? Dull. And dull doesn't mean stupid. He's not looking, you don't understand because you're dumb. That's not what he's saying. What he's saying is this, dull literally means hard or calloused. Like you have this armored shell around your life, around your heart, and you won't let anything in. So what Jesus is saying is this, just like if you were to throw the best seeds available, seeds that have the potential that if they were to be planted in good receptive soil, they would put down roots and they would grow and they would produce a harvest that could feed you and your entire family all winter. But just like if those same seeds, they're as good as the other seeds, but if they land on concrete, eventually they're just going to lay there. They're not going to do anything until somebody kicks them to the side and something takes them away. And Jesus says, it's kind of like that with people. Right? I'm handing them the best truth in the universe, truth that if they would just let it into their lives and give it a chance, it would eventually begin to put down roots and grow deeper and deeper and produce results in their lives that could feed and affect every important part of their life. He said, but my truth that could change and heal your life, it's landing on concrete. It's landing on hard, stubborn hearts, and you won't even give it a chance. No, I'm not going to do that. The question then that raises for me would be this. Why would a person's heart be so hard that even though Jesus himself is offering his truth and healing, it's not even given a chance? What would make a person's heart so hard? And here's the thing is, I have the best seat in the house. I can see what's going on in some of your heads right now. Some of you you're thinking right now, you know, about your own heart or somebody else's heart, and you're sitting here, some of you are even leaning forward and you're squinting your eyes a little bit because you're having an imaginary conversation with me in your head right now. I can tell, and it's going like this. Hard heart, you bet my heart is hard. Yes, I admit it. I have a hard heart. All right? I had to. I've had my heart broken, stomped on, used, abused, crushed, and thrown aside so many times. I finally said, that's it. No more. No more. No one's going to do that to me ever again. No one is going to get that close to me. And you built a wall around your life. You built a wall around your heart. And now, here's your attitude. I'm going to do what I want to do. Nothing, and no one's going to hurt me again, and nobody's going to change my mind or get in my way. This is our life, some of us, right? You're hard, you're bitter, you're angry all the time, and when you're not keeping people away, you're not letting anybody close to you, the meanest, most cutting things come out of your mouth because Jesus said out of the overflow of your heart, your mouth speaks, right? So if your heart is really, really hard and callous, you say and do really hard and callous things. So here's what some of you are doing. I can see it right now. You're sitting there going, go ahead. Say what you want to say. God, Jesus, Jim, I don't care. I'm not going to do it. Even if you're right, I'm just not going to do it. I'm not going to change. I'm not letting that into my life. And as your pastor, here's what I'd say. Okay. All right, do whatever you want to do. That's your choice. You know, I'll be honest with you. There's probably a good reason why your heart is so hard. right? I'm not even saying you shouldn't have a big hard shell around your life. See, I don't know your story. I don't know what happened to you. Probably nobody in the room understands what really happened to you. And if they think they did, they don't. They don't understand what it really did to you. It makes sense why your heart is or had to become so tough. You'd be dead if it wasn't. In order to survive, you had to get really, really tough. I get it. I also know this, though, that regardless of why your heart is hard and stubborn, you have two options from this point moving forward in your life. One, you can stay that way. You can do whatever you want. You can live the rest of your life that way. You can die that way. See, you've locked your heart up nice and tight, and you think it's secure. You think you won. You think, I'm safe, and nothing can ever touch me or hurt me ever again. Nothing can get to me. You know what? That's true, kind of. It's kind of true. The other part of this is that while nothing can get to you, you can't get to anyone else. You lock everybody else out, but you're locked inside of that little prison called your heart, right? In the effort to protect yourself, you've locked out everyone else in your life who loves and needs you in their life, but you're locked up and you've locked them out. And put that in plain English, because of your hard heart, you've locked the most important parts and people out of your life, and you lose twice that way. You lost once because of what caused your heart to get so hard, and I understand you had to do that, but now you've lost again because that hard heart is and will continue to ruin every good thing in your life. But if you're okay with that, then you keep doing that. You keep doing that. Stay strong. Stay tough. Be angry. Be bitter. Okay? And good luck with that. But if you want something better than that, if you want a better harvest, better results, a better family, a better whatever, all right, a better life than what you've been ending up with and harvesting in the past, then as scary as it is, your other option is this. You have to risk, in the word risk, breaking that hard shell open. And that's scary to think about opening up your heart to something new again. And again, anyone who has ever done any farming or gardening, who's faced dry, hard, sun-baked dirt, knows that the only way to break open dirt that is hard as concrete is with something that's harder than concrete. The only way to break up concrete is something that's stronger than concrete, which brings up this question. What's harder or stronger than the shell around my heart? I can only come up with two things, or maybe more. These are the top two on my list. What's stronger and harder than my heart? How about this? The hard, uncontrollable circumstances of life. Life is tougher and harder than you are. And what do I mean by that? I mean this, is that one day something's going to happen. And you don't think it is, and it's something you try to avoid, and you positioned your whole life to make sure that never, ever is going to happen to you, but it's going to happen. And when it happens, it's going to be so traumatic that it will crush your heart. And in that horrible moment, you will realize all that you lost, but it'll be too late. Because they, he, she, whatever, they're gone, and you don't get another chance. It's like birds came and just took it away. It's like, it wasn't even there. It's gone. I got crushed, and I lost everything. So circumstances may crush your heart and get you to pay attention one day, but the other one is Jesus. You knew I'd say that. Jesus says that if you will turn toward him, he'll heal you up from whatever it is that caused you to put up that hard shell around your heart in the first place. More on that in a minute, but in reality, if your heart's really, really hard, the moment you heard me say Jesus, you went, I'm out. I'm not I'm not going to listen to that, right? He can't or he won't help me. It's kind of like seeds. I don't care if they're right or true or not. He can't help my life. It's like seeds falling on concrete pavement. Which brings me to the other thing that might have caused your heart to get so hard that you say, I'm not going to look at my problem. I'm not going to open my eyes. I'm not going to open my heart. I'm not going to listen to what Jesus says is a better way. He can't come in. And I'm just going to call this out, and this is going to offend a lot of us in this room, but I'm just going to be really, really honest with you, all right? We can call it anything else we want. We can justify it, rationalize it, whatever, but the reason, bottom line, that some of our hearts are so hard is that we are, right now, at this moment, we are involved in something, call it anything else you want, it's sin. We're involved in something, we go, that's sin. This is what God says, and this is nothing like what God said. It's wrong, it's dangerous, it's sick, it's a lie, and we're sitting here right now, and we are honest with ourselves. It has the potential to damage and destroy everything and everyone important in your life. So you don't have to think about this or pray about this. You're sitting there going, what I'm doing has nothing to do with what I know God wants for my life. As a matter of fact, it's not even close. It's just wrong. And the rest of that sentence goes like this, but man, is it a rush. Right? Man, I know it's wrong, it's a sin, whatever you want to call it, but it's exciting, it's thrilling, it's romantic, it's sexy. You may be wrong, but I kind of like it. And see, the other way that you can translate the path other than hard sidewalk would be this: a busy street, a busy road, or a busy highway. As in, Jesus tried to tell you the truth about what's going on in your life and what has to change if you're going to have different results in your life. But his words, his truth landed in the fast lane of your life, and you decide, I can't slow down. I don't need to slow down. Other people need to slow down, but I don't need to because the rules and laws don't apply to me, and they'll never catch up with me, right? It's just like how we drive. I'm driving my life like I drive my car. And in the back of your mind, again, be honest with yourself. No one's going to know this but you and God, but be honest with yourself. You already know. You know, because you've had this conversation with your head, that what's going on in your life, it can't last forever. It can't last forever. And eventually it's going to catch up with you and your luck's going to run out. But right now, you're not going to think about it. You're going to do like I do in my Jeep. You're going to close your eyes and roll down the window and flip the bird and turn the music up so loud you can't hear anything or think about anything else. And you're going to drive so fast. And if you crash, you crash. Which sounds fun. Right? It sounds exciting. It sounds rebellious. It sounds romantic. It sounds like one of those stupid high school movies at the mall. You know what I'm talking about? There's like 1,000 coming out every year. And it's the same theme in every one of these movies. Don't let anyone tell you what to do. Make up your own rules. Live your life. Follow your heart. Be true to yourself. Drive fast. But the pathetic reality is that when you're a 20, 30, 50-year-old something trying to live out a fictitious movie script, it's not even real, but if it was real, what the movie doesn't show you is that right after the credits roll and the lights come back on, follow your heart and make up your own rules and be true to yourself always ends in a car crash. And at best, a wheelchair, but usually a funeral. And it's not romantic and it's not sexy. It's tragic, it's devastating, and it's deadly. And if you survive the initial crash, you're going to lay there on the pavement of your life, your heart cracked open and bleeding, and you'll realize, I just lost everything. I just lost everything again. And the reason I lost it is I'm selfish and I'm arrogant. And my unwillingness to see or admit what was really going on in my life. I knew what needed to change and I wouldn't do it. You're going to lay there and this is what's going to go through your head. This happened because of my sin. That's why everything fell apart. It's because of my sin. And it would be bad enough if your crash just hurt you or ended your life. But that's not how it works in car crashes, is it? See, your crash will hurt or injure or destroy a lot of other people's lives as well. Not because they did anything wrong, but because your sin crashed into them or ran over them and they paid for your sin. And the one thing you won't be able to say as you're laying there on the pavement bleeding is, I didn't know. No, you knew. And some of you, again, I'm not a prophet, but I think this is what's going to happen. Some of you are going to think about Labor Day weekend. I was at Flatirons. You're going to remember this moment. You're going to lay there, if you live, and you're going to lay there and you're going to go, I wish I would have listened. I wish I would have made some changes in my life. See, this is what God said is right and true and better. And I said, no. I rolled down the window and flipped God off and says, leave me alone. I want something else. And just like the birds carrying away seeds on the pavement, it's gone. They're gone. My family's gone. My marriage is gone. My life is gone. I just lost the most important part of my life. It's my fault. And some of us are sitting here going, I don't want that. I don't want that. I know I'm doing that. I don't want that. So what's the answer? Well, Jesus said, right? Here's what Jesus said. He says, if you'll turn towards me, change your mind. I don't want to live like this anymore. And the Bible word for that is repent. Let go of the way you were living and take hold of Jesus. In life, in the fast lane terms, it'd be like this. Make a U-turn and move back in Jesus' direction. He says, I will begin to heal up whatever it is that made you believe mistakenly that what you've been doing is a better way, because it's not. And I will set your feet on a better path, a better way to live and drive and grow. Turn back towards me and we'll start there, right? Listen to what God promises his people if you'll just turn back in his direction. And this was written hundreds of years before Jesus was even born, but the truth applies in 2013. Look at this, Ezekiel chapter 11. This is God talking. He says this, and I will give them, if you'll turn back towards me, I will give you one heart, a unified heart, not a split heart all over the place. I will give them one heart and a new spirit, my own spirit I will put within them. I will remove the heart of what? Stone, your hard heart, all right? I will remove the heart of stone from their flesh, and I'll give them a heart of flesh that they may walk in my statutes and keep my rules and obey them. And they, and I'm talking about you, right? And us, me, you, they shall be my people, and I'll be their God. But, here's the flip side of this, but as for those whose heart goes after their detestable things and their abominations, in other words, this is what Jesus said, I'm not going to do it. I'm not going to change. I know it's wrong, but I'm going to keep on running after it. God says, okay, but then he says this, I will bring their deeds upon their own head, declares the Lord God. You're sitting there going, what do you mean he's going to bring my deeds on my head? You will reap what you sow. See, what you do will come back and land on you and everybody who made the mistake of standing next to you. It'll land on them too, and that's some of our stories. Now, I'm going to stop right there, and we're going to pick this up next week, but let me ask you this. Does any of what I've said today explain kind of what's going on in your life? Or maybe you've been sitting here over the last half an hour going, it's really not my deal, but there's this other person in my life, and I'm really worried about him, and they just won't listen. I mean, it's so obvious that they just won't listen, but their hearts are just so hard, and I'm really, really worried about them. See, last week I made a statement that, and this is going to sound weird, but just go with it if you can, all right? I made a statement that there are some things that will only make sense in your life and in your heart. Some things that are so big that you'll only believe that they're true is if God himself were to teach you. If God were to whisper, it's really, really, really true. There's some things in your life that need to change, and the only way that you will possibly be open to them changing is if Jesus himself were to say, I'm talking about that part of your life. that most important part of your life. This cannot blow apart. You cannot risk losing this. It's just too important. The stakes are too high. That's the part of my life, of your life I'm talking about. That's what needs to change. I would say this. I think today is one of those days in your life. I do. See, here's the truth. Here's the reality. Sorry, maybe you shouldn't have come today, but you can't unhear this. Right? You can't. I never knew. Yeah, you can't do that. You can't unhear not what Jim's saying to you, but what Jesus is whispering to you right now is only He can. You can try. You can do this la 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 thing. It just won't work because you know the truth and you know the untruth in your life. Now, it sounds like a lot of pressure, but think about it. If you really, really understand what's really going on, then you don't have to wait until the uncontrolled circumstances of life catch up to you and smash your heart. You don't have to wait for that to make changes in your life. You don't have to wait until you crash and burn your life again, right? And find yourself laying on the highway of your life, remembering these words, and I wish I'd paid attention to Jesus before I lost it all. You don't have to do that. See, no, if you're convicted, pay attention. Because you can change. It's not too late. You can change. What do you mean? Make a decision. You won't get it all figured out today, but make a decision to turn your life back towards what you know. You don't know everything, but you know some things about what Jesus is saying is right and best and true. And here's my last thing. Be very, very, very careful if you brush this aside. If you refuse to let it in, let Him in, and it's all swept away, because there's no assurance of another chance. But with God's help and Jesus inside of you, we can all change.